Can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Jason Smith. I'm the department chair for the Human Performance and Sports Science Department at Tennessee State University. I am a native Nashvilleian. I've been married to my beautiful wife, Laquita, for 26 years. Shout out to Laquita. I have two grown children. My son just got married last weekend. Thank you so much. I was his best man. It meant the world to me. And so I have been at Tennessee State for about 13 years now. It's my alma mater. It's where I've earned all four of my degrees. So now I'm the department chair in the Human Performance and Sports Science Department.
Is that what you also studied when you were there?
It is. I have a undergrad in, used to be Human Performance and Sports Science, and then I had physical education, recreation, and dance.
Dance?
We'll come back to that. And then I got my master's in education, master's in sported men, and then my doctorate in leadership, educational leadership. So a lot of people go to different places, but I just kind of stayed local and kept going back to my alma mater, I guess. So
I love it. And you've been such an amazing resource and just new friend for me being newer to Nashville. So
Great.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And during one of our first conversations, we got into a tangent about leadership, which is how we got here today. And so I'd love to bring up something you told me about that you've developed over the years called the 8 Ps.
That's
principle.
right.
Please explain that to us.
So my whole life, my major influences outside of, Christ, but just in general with my jobs and being out in the workforce were coaches and my teachers. And so that's what I had always aspired to be. I got a quick funny story to tell you. So I started out in engineering, believe it or not, civil engineering, had an internship, shout out Reagan Smith. It was great. No relation, but they were phenomenal to me throughout college. So I come home a year and a half into engineering. I tell my fiance at the time, I said, hey, babe, I'm thinking about, changing my major. I think the Lord's calling me into education. And she looked at me as serious as she possibly could. And she said, well, you need to call him back. She said, I am not marrying a broke teacher. I'm going to marry an engineer.
Okay.
And I said, okay. But long story short, she stayed with me anyway, and I switched into education.
Okay.
So my influence were always my coaches. And as I became a teacher and a coach, I looked towards listening to the principals and people in leadership positions. And so what I try to do is just collect all the strengths I saw them utilizing and the things that I saw them do that were effective and efficient. And so I created this term for myself, basically called the 8 Ps, which are policy, procedure, and professionalism. Those are kind of the core non-negotiables. And then there's productivity, passion, purpose, pride. And then the most important one, in my opinion, is people. And so I've utilized these a little bit as a coach when I was coaching in high school, then as a professor, just kind of passing that wisdom along. And then now as a leader, as the department chair, we discuss these pretty much every departmental meeting we have each month. We had one yesterday, actually. So that's where that came from. It was just a lot of different ideas from a lot of different people. And I kind of kept the P theme going because it seemed to make it easier for me to remember, right?
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I love it. So let's break these down throughout our conversation. We'll kind of explore each theme. So let's start off with policy, procedure, and professionalism.
Okay.
So in your work, when tensions flare and you start with policy and procedure, what does that actually sound like in the room when two colleagues are in a disagreement?
So we'll go back, for example, at Tennessee State, we'll have a policy on absenteeism or a policy on time off or time leave time. So whatever that policy is stating, we have to go back to whatever the university said. I think, but also for myself, me following those policies, but also being so open with it. Like I mentioned, I was at a wedding last week. I took off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I said, hey, I'm going to be out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. My administrative assistant knew that I had put in for leave. Everybody knew I was gone. Everybody knew I followed the policy. So even from the top down, it's the same policy for me as it is for you. You're going to see me utilizing it. And they don't have to be as vocal about it, because it may be something personal they need to do where they'll text me or they'll call me and then I'll make sure that things are done, correctly. But I want them to see that that I'm going to lead by saying, hey, this is what's going on with me. Here's where I'm going to be. You know, if you need to reach out, text me. But so policy wise, I don't hold myself above any of the policy standards. Same thing with procedures. When we have a procedure to close our door at 10 minutes after class, I'm planning on closing my door at 10 minutes after class so everyone can learn about being on time and being where you're supposed to be, which is a lifelong skill, right? We always talk about. And then professionalism could be something as simple as a return email 24 to 48 hours. But what I have noticed is that's not the common practice in a lot of places. But here's where I put the professors on the spot, which I love, is they know that's my rule and like my procedure. So after they've gotten or received an email from a student, and within 24 to 48 hours, they know I've taught the students at 72 hours to resend with me CC'd on it. So now I'm like, everybody's accountable, right? So they're young adults. These aren't children. So I'm trying to make sure we're all on the same page with things like that. That's the procedure. And I generally in the beginning, there was a little pushback, but since then, not had one problem.
I generally love that you teach prompt responses to emails to your students because as someone who is a frequent emailer, that's my go-to method of communication.
Right.
My God, I'm a pretty prompt responder, like within usually a couple hours.
So my wife calls me the fastest responder in TSU history. She loves to joke about that, but it's just professional to me, you know? So. And so that's what we try to push with the policies, procedures, just professionalism. Also in dress, like knowing where we're going. You know, we go to these consortiums with all these professional sports teams we might touch on a little later, but you know, when you walk in, what's business casual, what's business professional, you know, or are our toes showing or some skin places showing that shouldn't be showing, you know, I kind of keep it real with them about that.
Yeah.
Are we smelling the way we're supposed to be smelling, you know, are we practicing good hygiene? And I know that sounds very, you know, trivial and maybe kind of high schoolish, but I brought some of those traits along with me because a lot of our students are first-time college generation students, so they may not have heard that before, or in a way I can say it kindly, but also like, okay, hey, we're checking everybody out before you get on this bus, and we need to make sure we look appropriate.
Absolutely. And I've seen you in practice in the classroom with that too. And so in thinking about teaching professionalism to students, and again, this might be foreign language to some people. So how do you teach this without sort of, I guess, the shaming or still making the standards stick when people are in an era where we definitely want to express ourselves individually?
Right. So I think one of my greatest compliments I get from students is that I'm very authentic. So I'm authentic about that. A uniqueness about me is I grew up in East Nashville. So I have always been a majority of the world, but a minority in the places that I attended school, where I attended at Stratford High School in East Nashville, where I attended at Tennessee State, which is a historically black college university. And then I worked in those same two spots. So I was still a minority at the places I worked and have been my entire life. So I have a different way a viewpoint of looking at things. So I want to make sure that I'm coming with an approach of this is a betterment for you and for all of us. I had to learn it myself because, see, I believe we are a product of our culture and our environment, right? So when I come to them about here's how we do a 30, 60-second first impression, you discuss your name, you make sure your pronouns are correct, you make sure your verbs and action verbs and the way you're speaking in the beginning, you make sure you've done your research about whomever you're speaking to. You make eye contact, some soft skills that, in my opinion, are kind of have faded away since COVID, especially. The shaking hands is optional now. I get it. People are a little weird about that, or the knuckle tap. But the eye contact, who you are, your objective, the listening skills. Actually, my wife taught me that one again. I'm noticing she taught me a lot of things in my life. But, you know, being a good listener, a good active listener, and then you can repeat back some things that you listened and learned in that few minute interaction that you just had with somebody. So we bring people in as yourself as a guest. As we bring in different people, this is just something I do. I try to bring in people that look like them, you know, that gives them confidence, that gives them networks and connections beyond what the majority in the world is going to be possibly in the fields that they're entertaining, which are physical therapy, athletic training, occupational therapy, professional sports industry, and then physical education, health education is kind of a different avenue. But and just I think them watching me and our professors treat them with professionalism and treat them with respect as young adults, I think that carries a lot of weight.
Absolutely. And I love that you're not just teaching these skills, but you do put it into practice because even recently at the career fair, I specifically remember, I don't know the name of the professor, but she was with a group of her students. And afterwards, she came up to me, she was like, how do they do? And like, how do they introduce themselves? Was it like, like it's like a spiel or a practice? And
That's right.
I love that.
And we do it in 3 or 4 classes. So, we're trying to make sure they have a good curriculum vitae or resume. Trying to make sure that they have a very good LinkedIn page. It's not the picture with the sunglasses on, leaned up against, this is your professional page, right? Professional email. And then, as you were mentioning earlier, the question, the professional language. Sometimes they call it code switching. Sometimes people just speak a certain way. But what I like to call it is just being a professional in that space, right? I may not talk at work the same way I talk at home, or I may. It depends on what you feel comfortable doing. Myself personally, I don't cuss at work, of course, but I have a cussing habit. I'm working on that. Like that's one of my downfalls. And it's not the hardcore words, but I'll throw out some every once in a while. I'm like, man, I really need to work on that. So no one's perfect, right? But just the professional language, I think, is the next piece we're working on. It was introductory things like resumes, professional page. Now it's how are we communicating with someone to get across that I too add value. I will add value to your company. I will add value to your professional sports team. And I may bring a uniqueness, which is what these places are learning from our students. A Harry Potter night's been cool. It's great. But what if you added like the straw would be a wand? Oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that. Where did you come up with that idea?
Right.
And so the next thing you know, the next Harry Potter night, the wand is the straw, and our students can say, we brought that concept to light,
That's awesome.
to life. So just things like that. So.
Yeah. So I'm hearing the themes of adaptability, and just the open-mindedness. I think of just being creative in your thinking and critical thinking. Which again, it's not always in the curriculum. So
no, it is not. We call those transferable life skills.
That part, yeah. And thanks to you, I don't even know if I got a chance to tell you, but after the career fair, I have a few new interns now.
Okay.
And they're amazing.
That's
and,
awesome.
One thing I emphasize for them is this is a two-way street opportunity.
Absolutely.
And any skills that you feel like you need to learn that you're not so far, we can adjust the position. It's flexible, it's fluid, it's iterative for you to walk away with what you need as well, right?
Right.
And so they've been very open-minded, and even because I think at the career fair I was the only one who's not sports related there. There was like me and one legal profession.
So what happened is we had a career fair at TSU with like 140 people there, but it wasn't a lot for our space. So we had the athletics team, which we work closely with. 1/4 of our students are athletes. So we had them come in with this concept of a career fair for just athletes. And I was like, well, what about if we did athletes in our department centered around these sports, professional sports? We had OT, PT represented, athletic training, NCAA, OBC, things around just that's niche of that. And so we had about 30 vendors show up. And then I reached out to old students that I had that had a company or a business, yourself, just really all my friends but just also wanted to see how great our students are. See, that's the hidden gem is we have phenomenal students. We may get some bad publicity about other things, about TSU, but what I can say is we learn a lot about resiliency. And I think when you learn those things like resiliency, how to network and try to figure things out sometimes on your own rather than it just being handed to you or giving you a format, it makes you a little stronger in the space when you get into these companies and these businesses where you have to do that on the daily.
Absolutely. And that resiliency part is a big thing I led with when I spoke to your grad students just about life after this.
Right.
And speaking of that next step, because you have a handful of graduate students, right?
Right.
And so for students who fear a sort of degree to nowhere type of complex, how do you map coursework to the actual roles so productivity feels purposeful?
So 3 years ago, we started what we're calling classroom to career. So not only are we giving them the pedagogy and content knowledge from the classroom, but as they matriculate through and get to that junior, senior year, it's like, okay, what is your end game? Our professor, Dr. Jones, shout out, actually says, what's your end game? Like, where are you trying to go to OT school, PT school, AT school? Are you trying to get in professional sports? What is your goal at the end? And of course, it changes 50% of the time, by the way. But they say, I want to be in athletic training. Okay. So we started immediately figuring out ways we can try to help them get into athletic training schools. We don't offer that at TSU. So we started what we call articulation agreements now with Middle Tennessee State University. We've got one pending with SEMO right now. We've got another thing as for internship opportunities with Vanderbilt University Sports Medicine. So now we can actually say, all right, you complete all your prereqs, no favoritism, but just an opportunity for you to get in at MTSU. And now if you have all those things, you go through the interview process and you get to sit down for that. So now your classroom work has been done, and now your career can start for you. It may be somebody else that says, I want to work in professional sports. Okay, go to this Nashville Sounds, Nashville Predators, Tennessee Titans, Nashville SC, Nashville Cats, Memphis Grizzlies consortium, and connect yourself with some people and start your internship, which your internship can lead to a career. And then it can also, what we're learning is they go back home to Detroit or Chicago or Cleveland, and they've had those experiences. So now we have a student that works for the Lakers. We have a student that works for the Cleveland Cavaliers. We have a student that works for the Detroit Pistons. So they've experienced that and that network connection, because believe it or not, sports, there's so many connections throughout sports. And so they're able to start that internship, which then also leads to a career. So whatever they're trying to be, even physical education teacher, we have a couple of those. I'm trying to guide them to that job placement out of college, because I'm sure you've seen it. We've all been to these graduations. They walk across the stage. I tell this story to every class that I teach every semester to the seniors. They're all, hey, and they're cheering, and their mamas are proud, and cousins, and they're smiling and waving, and then they sit down, and then it kind of hits them after about 10 minutes. And the ones that keep smiling have a plan. The ones that realize Monday, am I going back to my part-time job? What am I doing with this degree? Have I planned for my future? Are the ones that have this look, and they just and then they get back happy, but they're kind of just like, and you can see it because it's starting to calculate, right? So we want ours to keep smiling. And so we're able to track now where they end up after they walk across the stage, whether they're at the undergraduate level or the graduate level.
Amazing. And so we're having this theme about productivity, right?
That's it.
And so one thing that's interesting when I was at the career fair, as someone who's not a sports person, sorry,
okay,
I was enlightened on just how many opportunities there are in sports. But to me, I just think athletes,
Right.
And so when people are entering this department, are they already aware of all these different avenues they can take, or is that something you guys expose them to when they get in there?
They get exposed right from the very beginning. They get exposed in their first 2 years as they're doing a 2+2. They talk about what all opportunities they have that we have in human performance and sports science. So then that's when they get in, and a lot of them, being honest, they come in, I want to be an AT, I want to be a PT, and they start taking those chemistries and those physics and those sciences, and it may not be their route anymore. Or they're doing those and doing well in them, but they're like, hey, I don't really know if this is the route I want to go. And then they get introduced to intro to sport management. And they're like, well, hold on a second here. I am pretty good at this, time management, organization piece. So maybe I can go into sport admin and look at doing operations, game day operations. I'm really good. I like moving around. And so let's look at this pathway. And for us to be able to have someone who's done that at 4 or 5 or 6 different professional sports organizations, it's just awesome to be able to make that connection. Now, I will say all those teams too have been phenomenal. And I think a lot of them going into it were like, what are we going to get out of this kind of feeling? We checked off a box that we helped out, or we were part of an HBCU initiative. But when their faculty, when their members come back and say, hey, I love that, are they doing it next year? That made me think about really what are my priorities in my position, or some of the questions that they were asked. It helps them kind of get back rejuvenated and get and start thinking about ways to improve at their own position, you know. And so it's a win-win all the way around for everyone involved. And so that's
Absolutely.
the greatest part when you can be a part of something like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you brought up an important part because this happens inevitably, I think, in most students' matriculation, that pivot. Uh, I think there's a negative sort of taboo about college in general is that you just get a degree you're never going to
That's
use, or
it.
you just don't even know what to study, so you're kind of just filling time. How do you kind of guide people through that pivot?
So we do a career research paper towards the end of their career so they can kind of see, because they'll come in, I want to be an athletic trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, do you know what athletic trainers do? How much they make state to state? Let's talk about some income. I'll come back to that. But I said, when's the athletic trainer off during in season for football? Well, Sunday. No, Sunday's recovery day because the college game, football, let's say football, is Saturday. And then Monday through Friday is practice. So when are you off on as an athletic trainer as a collegiate athletic trainer for football? Well, when are they off, Dr. Smith? And I'm like, well, hey, go talk to ours or let me bring one in, an athletic trainer in. And then they all think they're coming out making $100,000 a year, which is also a lesson I give them. And I literally have students come back years later or email me and they'll say, Dr. Smith, I had no idea what FICA was. So I start talking to them about it may say this amount. That's your gross, right? Versus your net. And like, again, these might be first time college generation students. Like my mother never made over $30,000 a year in her life. And so they don't understand what that means, when taxes come out, right, or, just simple things like that, planning, budgeting. You want to live in downtown Nashville. They say now to live in Nashville, it's like 100 to 120 to be comfortable, right? So are you going to have a roommate? You may not want one, but you may have to have one, right. So just some things like that, I think are the misconceptions of coming out with this degree, but you also have to, I try to teach them all the time too, that nothing's given in this life. You have to earn those things. You may have to start at a lower salary job and work that same job the way you would if you were making $100,000, and people see that, right? And many people have to have several side hustle jobs. I've had several side hustle jobs, even as an adult, even now, I do some adjunct work at some other universities and colleges. I've worked at Vanderbilt University Medical Center and did a part-time job. Those things are real, and I do it because I'm trying to provide for my family the best I can, and be comfortable, right? And so they have to understand that, that you may have a couple of jobs, you may have a job that doesn't pay what you think as you come out, and you may need to get more education for that. You may need to get more training for that. It may move you places in the world, which I love when you spoke, by the way, about just different places around the world, because that's another thing. Our students haven't crossed the Mississippi River, you know what I mean? Or they haven't gone too far around the country. I've been fortunate to travel a little bit with sports to about 25 states, but that was great that you got to give them some enlightenment on that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Of course. And so I'm also interested in knowing how you help them balance the idea between passion and, I don't know, practicality.
So all our professors have a story, right? And so I have them try to be open about that with their passion. So that way we have those tracks of, you want to go strength conditioning, Dr. Cochran can talk to you about that. You want to go to Stanford to grad school and you want to talk about sport management, Dr. Johnson can talk to you about that. You want to be a collegiate coach or a coach in high school, Dr. Jones can talk to you about that passion. You want to get in health promotions, Dr. Dixon can talk to you about that. You want to be in group fitness instruction, Miss Boyd and Miss Brown can talk to you about that. You want to talk about doing exercise science lab and testing and kinesiology work, Dr. Keegan can talk to you about that. You're going on to AT or PT, Dr. Martina Sapansky can talk to you about that. You want to talk about counseling, my administrative assistant, Miss Stark, shout out, is also has her master's in counseling. So we can talk about the organization skills of that. Or sports psychology is kind of down that counseling pathway. So I think having an adult that's older than them, they're all adults, speak to them about that passion that they had and why they had it is another key component of the success of the students and the department, right? And then, of course, I talked to him about coaching and high school and teaching, which were all great times. But you've got to be prepared for that. And then that passion may run out. And it's okay. Another thing I mentioned is to change that passion. You know, I was in high school for 12 years. Now I'm at the collegiate level for, 13 years now. I may move on to something. I leave it open for myself. I'd love to be the dean of the College of Health Sciences. Shout out. Make that happen at TSU. But those are options that you always kind of leave open. But you follow that passion. We have a guy come in, Dr. Thomas Lavallee, and he talks about what your passion is, and he talks about what your 3 superpowers are. So what are you passionate about? What are 3 things you're good at, right? And you take those 3 things and you try to surround yourself with people that have those 3 things as well to build that. Right. And so I think it's easy to see what I'm passionate about. And I think, what I will say this, I think a preacher told me this one time, but he said, when you talk to somebody for 15 or 20 minutes, you'll either find out their passion and their purpose or their purpose and pain. So if they start talking about things that have affected them and why they act a certain way, or if they start talking about their kids or their grandkids or their job, you can tell that that's they're going to be passionate about. I know that's kind of odd, but I kind of do that sometimes when I'm talking to people to kind of see what they're starting to talk about, right?
Yeah, and just kind of shows you what their mindset is.
Right.
Like, yeah.
And, I'm not a big, I call them Eeyore people, just always, you can't have a bad day every day, right?
Yeah.
So it's always, I think the positivity thing with our students, come in, and some people don't like that. I get it. I'm that guy, good morning, and of course some people are like, all right, good morning.
I'm that person.
Yeah, it's okay. And I don't do it to just, make people feel like they should do it too. But that's my personality. Yours may not be that way. Totally fine. Get along great. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think you brought up several important points, but I think one thing, even when they have these speakers coming in and they're seeing someone who seems quote unquote successful, even understanding that we still have those pivots as well and
100%.
Those doubts and all those things, because it's so hard to not associate a pivot with a failure.
Correct.
Especially if you've been dreaming about this, planning for this, it doesn't end up being exactly what you thought it'd be or look like. And actually, I think one of my favorite quotes, I forgot who said it, is the thing that trips us up the most is like what we thought it would look like, right, versus just like accepting what's happening, in front of us. So yeah, that's something that I think never quite goes away, that we don't acknowledge. You can look especially on social media, everyone looks so very certain of what they're doing all the time, not knowing, I've tried to be transparent about this. The podcasting is new for me.
Yeah.
There is so much hesitation before I hit publish every single time. I was talking to you about this before. I was like, oh my God, I'm on camera, my hair, blah, blah. It's just all of it.
So I try to give them a little secret of life too, that it took me a while to learn, but I think part of your passion is giving back. So wherever you find that for yourself. And so for me, giving back, the more I give back, I feel like the more blessings start chasing me down and opportunities. So I've thought less about myself and more about others. And it seems like that's when all these different types of opportunities come available to me.
I love that.
And so I think them hearing that from somebody else, because especially in your 20s, it's from the time you wake up to the end of the day, and like you said, with all this social media and everybody trying to, self-promote, which there's space for that, and you should do that. But we all are real people, and we have other emotions and feelings and things we deal with in life as well. So that's just kind of one of my other philosophies.
Yeah. And so while we're on the topic of passion, I think when we were talking the first time about your 8Ps, you said something about like once the passion for teaching fades, it's time to reevaluate.
Right.
Teaching is obviously not an easy job, very undervalued still to this day. So how do you spot fading engagement early, and how do you intervene?
So I think what's great about higher ed is there's the course execution and teaching that happens. And some professors up there can do it without a blink of the eye. And they can even update it, and be able to teach and get that information across. the big part though is the transferable knowledge, right? You can have, I had a calculus professor one time, brilliant, but I don't feel like he could transfer that knowledge to me beyond the numbers. You know, I might need to think a different way, like a kinesthetic learner or something. But also I'm looking to see if they're still being able to transfer that knowledge. And then from there in higher ed, like I said, if there's a side part they want to utilize to teach a lesson that they are still very passionate about. So maybe something with track and field, that they can do a field trip with track and field to learn about this, you know, way that the hip movement is going and the ankle movement, or, you know, whether it be somebody that is big into health promotions and they have 2 or 3 students travel with them to a convention about health promotions, because they still have that passion for that pathway. That's kind of what I meant about the passion. But I did think I said that I feel like if you get to that point and you've been teaching 20, 30, 40 years and your passion is, you're losing your passion for that, I feel like that at a certain point, you're almost hindering the student's progression by being kind of just basically cookie cutter, cut and dry, coming in, doing your time, going home. Like, you got to continue to try to have and find some type of passion. So our department, by the way, is fairly young as in like 55 and under. I think that's still pretty young. So I can see it in their eyes. Like, they're volunteering to do extra things. They want to bring the students out for activities outside of the classroom. We have a majors club with 100 students that do the Wounded Warrior walk and breast cancer awareness and Grand Prix, and volunteer at all these professional sports teams. And a few other professors volunteer for that. So they're trying to do things outside of that. Research, there's always opportunities to do research. You know, we have that exercise science side as well. We have $1 million lab over there, which is beautiful. So they want to do their side projects, you know, with the biodex, or they want to do a side project. So I think for me as the department chair is to try to continue to find ways that keep them passionate about their job. We have a professor who is a little older, and he's starting to write these books now. He's like on his 2nd book, you know, in the last year or 2. So it's like, hey, this is what's keeping you kind of motivated in that space. Love it. Go for it. Right. And then we have Dr. Jones. He's our advising director. Shout out to Dr. Jones again, maybe, but he advised me. He hates when I tell that story as an undergrad.
Yeah.
But he's so good at it, you know, and so that he's passionate about helping young people. And when you find somebody that have that niche, that's what I try to keep them kind of pushing in that space of what does motivate you and keep you passionate, right? About your job. Because, you know, job burnout is there, you know, it truly is, especially in education, because you're constantly, you know, regurgitating the information that you've learned and transferring the knowledge. But also, I think a lot of times they quit applying that in their lives. And so I had a kid one time, or student one time, said he was in a business class, and the guy was talking about being a multimillionaire and running a business, blah, blah. And the student said, well, have you ever run a business? And the guy was like, no. And so the student said, well, how would I learn that from you if you've never run a business? And so hopefully the guy didn't take it too rude, you know. And the guy's name is Rob, and now he owns several businesses here in Nashville. And that was kind of a moment for him of, I've got to go out and do what I'm learning in the classroom. And some of the professors don't do that, right? They just profess, right? So I can talk about high school coaching because I was out in it, right? That lost 7 to 6 on a Friday night, and it's killing you, you know, but you try not to let it affect you when you go home to your family, right?
Yeah.
And even as a leader trying to do something in the department and it not working out, and then being like, man, how can I spin this with something with a positive, you know, aspect of it, right? So those things can be challenging for sure.
Absolutely. So we've talked a bit about the passion, the purpose, the pride. Do you have any particular rituals or traditions that reliably build pride without becoming performative for yourself?
I do. And when I saw this, when I thought about this, it comes from my coaching days where we all had matching shirts on Friday night or hats. or, just material. So each year I buy our department buys our professors different shirts with our logo on it. And so I've noticed over the last 3 or 4 years the pride they take in those, because now they're like, hey, can we get a sweatshirt? Can we have a dress up button up? Can we have and so after 4 or 5 years, we've got pretty much everything you could have, from toboggans to hats to sweaters to dress up, button up shirts to other than pants and shorts with it on there. And so I think that builds camaraderie. It's also promotional, but for the women, it's hilarious. They're like, we love it because we don't even have to worry about picking out, outfits. We could just match our shirt with what, and I would have never put that together because I like it as a male too, for that same reason.
Yeah.
It's like, what TSU outfit am I wearing today?
Right.
I'm going to work. It's kind of uniform, a uniform. But I think that builds a camaraderie, right? Of that we're all on the same team. And sometimes I feel like my leadership style, of course, I believe it's a little bit transformative, but I also want to make sure it's democratic, to where this is our department, right? There's going to be another department chair after me. There were several before me, right? So I'm just trying to build it with some ways that I think are going to be good for our students during my time and tenure. But I may step back at some point, and then someone else will be the department chair. But we all have, a responsibility to the students and the college and the university to do our best that we can at that position, and so I let them know that a lot, and I want their feedback and their input. With complaints, I have them come with 2 or 3 solutions. I think that's one of the wisest things I've ever come up with just life is, we all have issues and problems, but come to me with 2 or 3 solutions and we can discuss them. I may use them, I may not, but tell me how many times you think people now come to me with a bunch of problems.
Right.
Very seldom. Right. And it's because they don't want to think about how would we resolve this, Dr. Smith. Now, there's a few that they have a solution for everything, of course, that's just life. But I think those things are what kind of brings us together as a staff and a unit. And of course, I'm always bragging about them, which I should, but I'm always talking about our department. I'm always saying we're the best department. You may even see on LinkedIn about me saying something like best department at Tennessee State. That's self-proclaimed. I haven't been given any award for that. But I just feel like, you got to believe it, right? Like, that's what we're working for. That's what we're working towards.
Right.
So I was telling them the other day, they think I'm probably crazy at some point, but I said, hey, I'm about to announce that I'm the department chair of the year. And so a few of them were like clapping, and they're like, oh, that's so great. And they're like, when did you win that? I said, no, I just think it'd be great if I was. They're like, Dr. Smith, we don't even have a department chair of the year. And I said, not yet.
Just profess it. I love that. I'm going to come up with one for myself.
There you go. Yeah. Podcaster of the year from Nashville.
All right. Put that out there.
There you go.
The awards will follow.
You'll have people calling in like, hey, congratulations on the award.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this kind of leads us into the last P, which is arguably the most important one, right? The
I
people.
Agree. Yes.
So in the past, I think we've talked about how you shifted the department from about 8 men and 2 women to a more balanced team.
I did.
Yes, please tell us about.
So this will be the first time I actually publicly talk about this.
Okay, exclusive here.
So in our department, and it's just the way it fell out. There were 8 men, there were 2 women. It was majority Caucasian men. So as I was trying to add faculty and staff, I want the most qualified person, let me say that. But I also wanted to look at diversifying our department a little bit more. So I didn't know it would come out this perfectly, but we have now 5 men, 5 women, 5 minority, 5 Caucasian. So I don't know how that actually worked out that way. But I just feel like our students, as I said earlier, need to see people that look like them in the spaces that they can retain the information from as well, and as we were saying earlier, there's a fine line of, I want them to gain the knowledge from whomever they're speaking to or whomever's speaking to them. But I also want them to know that there are people that are more relatable to them from their background experiences, you know. And so I want that to be important. And so that was the push for a little bit of diversity there. I know that word's a buzzword now, but it's still a real word, by the way. But I've always, like I said, I've always been in the situation where I possibly am going to be the minority. So I know how that feels for that feeling. Maybe not necessarily, totally, but I can just see that. So I wanted to make sure that we had a equal representation of everything. Having a daughter myself too, having, speaking the importance of equality with her opportunities. It just changes you a little bit about your perspective on life. And, everyone, what I say all the time about it, especially these professional sports teams, is you don't see a lot of minorities in the upper offices of these places. And so my pitch to our students are, when you get in those spaces, if that gets your foot in the door, then you kick the door open and you let them know that there are more to follow that are just as equivalent with being productive as you are. And then you reach forward to try to continue, but you also reach back and make sure that you let students know this can happen. And I think professors can be an image of that for a lot of students as well. And then as far as the people part, I think part of our issue in the world right now is we don't express our emotions enough. And so my faculty knows I love them, and I'll tell them, like, human to human, I love you. Thank you for this today. Male, female, they kind of look at me crazy, but I mean, what are you going to go back and complain that I said I loved you, that you did a great job on this assignment? Like, what complaint would that be, right? When my seniors exit, I tell them I love them. I tell them I'm praying for them. I hope that they have success. They can always come back. They need a recommendation letter. If they need a connect that I have on my LinkedIn or that I know. And so I don't know why I'm getting so emotional about that.
Aww.
I know, but I think that's missing. And if we just all treated each other that way, I think a lot of the other issues would kind of dissolve themselves, right? So that's just our approach. And I think that's reflective of our entire department. And so I hope when you walk in the Gentry Center on that third floor or the second floor where the classrooms are, you feel that as well.
Right? I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, so beautiful. Now tell me, summing all this up, how do these 8 Ps sort of translate outside of academia and work?
Yeah, so I'm trying to work on several of them, like just continuously, especially at home, right? I know communication is with a C, but I think the communication piece of these Ps is really important in everyday life and in a relationship. I think reminding myself about being productive for the day. There's 86,400 seconds in a day. And so I'm trying to make every second count, because you don't get that day back. So have I been kind to people today? Have I said something that influenced somebody today positively? If I've been rude today, did I come back and apologize for that? Was I short with someone today? That's another thing. I think a lot of adults have a problem apologizing for stuff. I still do too. So I'm sure my wife would agree. But have I been a good father? Have I been a good husband? Have I led like a Christian today? Have I, treated others how I want to be treated? Right. And so I think part of those P's with passionate, was I passionate today about my job? Did I give my best effort with my presentation today? I don't know if you were in there for the standing ovation, but I do.
Wait,
that.
The one you orchestrated? Yeah. I was there for that. That was amazing.
That's my intro. So anytime I speak, I do that. But it was great. So,
but you definitely create your own opportunity.
But also humor. I guess humor too is part of it. Like, laughing and smiling releases some of these serotonins and things. So, I try to be a little lighthearted sometimes, but make people smile, people laugh. So I think you can apply these 8 Ps to any job, business, any university, any department, at home, You know, I mean, I have some policies at the house, you know, or procedures at the house. And sure, we're going to take your shoes off at the door.
Right.
You know, I don't always do that. So I get the look, you know, so I got to make sure, okay, you're right, man. I'm sorry. I know you've been sweeping, mopping. So
Can you
something
repeat
like
that
that.
for all the husbands out there?
Yeah, I know, right? It's a tough one. So policies, procedures, professionalism, uh, you know, passion, like we talked about, your purpose, having pride in what you do. Um, I love what I do now, and so I take pride in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you can see that when people have a job, you can see if it's an usher at a Predators game, you can see that guy holding that stop sign. He is fired up, right? But he's got passion in his job. He's doing it to the best of his ability.
Yeah.
You know, I know Martin Luther King had a speech called The Blueprint. You know, everybody always goes to I Have a Dream, but he has a speech about the blueprint, and he said, do everything that you do to the best of your abilities, no matter what it is. If you're a street sweeper, if you're the CEO, you know, and I think if you can connect that of that work ethic, then that'll carry you, you know, as far as it can. So, yeah, I think the 8 Ps, I'm actually writing a book about it. Shout out.
Okay, now.
I'm putting it out here on the podcast for the
and we will hold you accountable.
Okay, yeah. So I'm excited about that. I need a little bit of a break. I may do it during Christmas break and possibly finish it up this summer. So that's the plan. But I think they're simple, but I think sometimes we take simple things and make them hard.
Absolutely.
And so I'm hoping that it just benefits whoever the reader is of these 8 and can make them and apply them to their business, apply them to their school, apply them to the workforce that's around them. I think that would be a positive impact.
Love it. Now, are you ready to put these 8 Ps into practice live on the show?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
A little lightning round
game, you know that.
So I'm going to name a common campus conflict,
okay,
life conflict.
Okay.
And you answer with the first P that you'd reach for and a one-liner on why.
Okay.
All right. Missed deadline.
That is procedure.
Okay.
Because we've already given you the deadline. And another thing I do, I'm sorry, I'm going a little over, is I'll give them 2 days before the real deadline. Another little strategy, right? Grades are due on the 10th, but I tell them the 8th.
Yep.
Hey, you're late. It's the 9th, but they're really not due till the 10th.
Right. Push it for yourself. I mean, you gotta protect yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay. An email or a text tone goes sideways.
Professionalism. It's the 24 to 48 hours. I've literally had to tell a professional, all caps means you're yelling. You can't send the whole email with all caps. It means means you're yelling at someone. Not using a greeting, not using a closing remark. So that's my answer.
And I'll just add to that, my own philosophy is the more like sort of sensitive the topic, the more personal the communication method should be. So don't text me like something very like, call me or text me that we need to talk and then we can talk about it in person or something.
100% agree.
Let's see. A student professionalism complaint.
So my professors love this and hate this. So a student comes in complaining about a professor not being professional. I get their side of the story. I get the professor's side of the story. Then I bring them together in a conflict resolution as adults. Sometimes it's a misunderstanding, but it also lets the professor know I'm holding them accountable. It lets the student know I'm holding them accountable. And then we've got to come to a resolution between the 3 of us. And usually as we walk that out and talk that out, it works itself out, whether it be didn't respond to an email and I needed to take a test. Okay, bring me some receipts. Forward me that email you sent that they didn't respond to. You know, Dr. So-and-so, did they send you this? I have this record. Was there a delay in this? And then sometimes the professor will have to say, hey, you know what? I didn't get back to you in time. This is right. Let's make this adjustment. Or the professor will come back with his receipt. Remember I said be here at 10 o'clock and you didn't show up at 10 o'clock? And the administrative assistant, you know, said you didn't make it in that day and you said you'd come make up at 10 o'clock. We gave you that opportunity. You know, so I think, you know, the new buzzword, the receipts, you know, having the receipts of showing where we went wrong in that situation.
Right. Okay.
There's always a solution.
Yeah.
This is the solution room, right?
Resolution room.
Resolution
Yeah.
room.
I mean, the whole thing is about finding common ground. It's always there. It's
That's
just,
it.
a little give and take,
That's right.
And here's a bonus one for you. Your wife's been home mopping and sweeping all day, and you walk in and don't take your shoes off.
What happens? Well, first she gives me the look. After 26 years, there's not a lot of speaking. It's the look.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's upset.
Mm-hmm.
I creep back, take them off, and then I immediately start doing the laundry or whatever other chores
I like it.
I should do to assist her. I'm actually working on that currently right now.
Okay.
And so that's what I would do. And then I would go and start rubbing her shoulders and then be like, hey, is there anything else that I need to do for you? So here's the thing for men, for me. I come home from working all day, so does she. But she's always doing the stuff. So I kind of find myself, this is an excuse, it's a terrible excuse. Just not ever, I don't ask. I don't ask. I think men, like, sometimes we have to be told like what to do, what needs to be done. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I know, like, the trash needs to be taken out. I get it. But like, hey, could you flip the laundry? I'm not coming home thinking about that. Right. I'm coming home thinking about, taking my dog out maybe, but also like what game is coming on tonight? What movie are we going to watch as a family? What's my plan for tomorrow? How many meetings do I have tomorrow? We come home with a different focus. So now this actually, don't laugh. It's been like 2 weeks. She's like, I'll come in, make sure my shoes are off. And I'm like, hey babe, what can I help you do? Mm-hmm. And she'll give me a list now, and she's like, for a long time, she's like, I don't want to treat you like a child, like you should know. And I'm like, babe, I don't know that the shoes in the closet they're not organized, or that, the laundry upstairs needs to be folded. My brain is not thinking about those things. So this has helped amazingly, by the way, because she's like, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this, please, before dinner. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. No worries. Right.
But even that, thank you for even explaining that. Because, again, this is like the sort of core at most misunderstandings
100%.
Is the assumption that the other person is like trying to not help me or be agreeable, whatever it is. And a lot of times, oddly enough, the person just is not aware that this is an issue or a problem for you.
That's right.
And when you communicate that, you can create a solution for the both of you.
That's it.
Love it. All right. Because this is the resolution room, I have to end on a signature resolution question.
Okay.
So for you, when the emails are flying and the path forward isn't obvious, what does being resolved look like for you as a leader? And how do your 8 Ps help you choose the right next step?
So I've done this a lot lately. I will reread those emails or whatever's got the issue going on. I will give it 60 seconds to be mad. 60 it's really kind of crazy. I've literally started doing this like a month ago. 60 seconds to be mad, 60 seconds to be excited, 60 seconds to be, like, what they're saying, like confused, like whatever my first emotion is, give me a minute or two to just really feel that way.
Okay.
And there's been some ones that I'm like, I can't believe this, I would punch something if I could. Right. But then I stop wherever I'm at with that. Right. So, okay, I've had that. So then I start going through these 8 Ps. Right. Let me think about, am I going to show this person a little bit of grace with my response? Am I going to show them a little bit of my pride and my passion? Will I have to swallow some of my pride and my passion? Was I wrong with whatever they're saying coming at me? And then I'll do a first draft email and I won't send it. I'll read it again. Mm-hmm. I'll go out 5-10 minutes, come back in, reread it, change some things.
Okay.
So then I will respond and send it. But I always do, like you said, the follow-up of, if this isn't the response you wanted or needed or thought it should be, let's plan a future time to discuss it face-to-face or via Zoom or Teams where we can hash this out. And so, again, for me, I don't have a lot of those issues because I think I try to be so, overly communicative. But when I do, that's the way I address that. And I am thinking about all the P's that I say. And then I want them to feel comfortable with whatever outcome or decision we can. And it may be a agree to disagree type of thing. I know couples hate that statement. But sometimes that may be how it has to be for now. Yeah. And then honestly too, I was telling the professor yesterday, we disagreed about something. And I said, I appreciate you having your opinion on this, even though we're going to go this other direction. You having that opinion, I respect that. And it will make me think about this later on. Like, was that the right decision? Or if this comes up again, I need to prepare myself for that statement. And I think that's important to make future decisions as well. So, face to face, after the returned email or issue, and then just trying to find the resolution for everyone that's involved. And I think that's the way. It doesn't always work out perfectly, but that I would feel comfortable handling the situation that way. A lot of our emails, though, are like deadline stuff. Right. I need this tomorrow. Yeah. And you're like, what? Yeah. So that's the part. That's the ones that frustrate me. Yeah. It's not the conflict issues. I feel like I can handle those. It's I need this tomorrow. And you're like, when did you know about it? Oh, 3 weeks ago. So why are we waiting? Do you get those? Or have you been a part of that? Right. It's so frustrating. It's like,
because everyone you're running on everyone else's timeline,
right? Or double work is what I call it. So you'll do it in this system, but hey, I need you to also do it in this system. And I'm like, hold on a second.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a beautiful response, and definitely sums up all the steps of the 8 Ps. So, Dr. Smith, where can everyone follow you in your work?
So I only have a LinkedIn account, believe it or not. And so it's at Dr. Jason Smith on LinkedIn. And then I'm at Tennessee State University, and you can email me anytime. It's jsmith66@tnstate.edu. And we are in the Gentry Center at Tennessee State University, 3500 John Merritt Boulevard. And we are located on the 3rd floor. And so I would welcome anyone to shoot me an email or shoot me an invite on LinkedIn. Be glad to communicate, talk about what we're doing. And then also I like learning from other people. And so I'm always open to that.
It was so amazing to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you so much. I love being here. Appreciate you having me.
Clarity reduces conflict. What Jason's 8 Ps reminds us is that calm doesn't come from charisma or control. It comes from standards that are clear, shared, and practiced daily. When expectations are visible, professionalism becomes teachable, productivity becomes purposeful, and people feel grounded instead of reactive. If today's conversation resonated, I'd love for you to please share. Your support for the show by rating, liking, subscribing, commenting, it all does much more than you know. As always, thank you for joining me in the Resolution Room. Remember to keep building in the quiet, because that's what will carry you forward.